In the deep black of space, far from any known planet, an alien observation station floated in silence. It was old, cold, and built only for one purpose: to watch. The station belonged to a peaceful alien race called the Varnock, who always feared one species: humans. The Varnock had strict rules. No human ships were allowed near their territory. They believed humans were dangerous, unpredictable, and filled with strange power. For years, no human had come close. Everything was quiet. But that quiet ended suddenly. The alarm sounded like a deep, slow bell. Red lights blinked. A strange signal had entered their space. It was a ship, a human ship. The Varnock commander, a tall creature with pale skin and sharp eyes, walked quickly into the control room. He looked at the screen. The signal was real. A small human ship had passed the outer border 5 hours ago. Somehow no one had noticed. How did we miss it? The commander asked. No one had an answer. A young technician, shaking, said, "It's not moving, it's just floating." The ship was silent. No signs of life, no heat, no messages, just floating quietly near. A dark moon. The commander gave an order. "Scan it. Deep scan. I want to know what's inside." The scans came back strange. The ship looked healthy, no damage, but it had no crew, no heat, no movement, no sound. It was like a ghost ship. Still, the technology was human, no mistake. "It's already inside," someone whispered. The commander felt cold. It was too late. The humans were already here, inside Varnock space, but the ship didn't move. It didn't call. It didn't do anything. That was the worst part. It was too quiet. He ordered a deeper scan, trying to read the ship's memory logs. The computers worked hard. Finally, a short piece of data came through. A log file, less than 10 seconds long. A human voice, female, breathing hard. She said, "They told us to stay quiet, but it found us anyway." Then came static. Then silence. The commander stared at the screen. What found them? What made the humans go quiet? He ordered his team to contact home, but the signal didn't go through. Something was wrong. The station was alone. Hours passed. The human ship stayed still. No signs, no changes. The Varnock crew grew nervous. Some wanted to leave. Others said they should send a drone to investigate. The commander stayed silent. He was thinking, watching, waiting. Suddenly, the station lights blinked. A power drop. For 3 seconds, everything went dark. When the lights came back, all screens showed the same message. It was not in Varnock language. It was in English. It said, "Do not listen." The crew froze. How did the ship send that? Or did it even come from the ship? One technician ran to shut down the signal systems. Another screamed. He said he heard something like a voice in his mind. "It's speaking," he cried. But not with words. He collapsed on the floor, shaking. The commander had seen war. He had seen death. But he had never seen fear like this. He gave the final order: shut down the station, send a warning, and prepare to evacuate. But it was too late. Outside, the human ship turned slightly. Just a small movement, enough to show that it was no longer empty. Something was inside. Something that waited in silence. Something that had come through space, not looking to fight, not even to kill, just to listen. And now the listening had begun. As the station tried to go dark, another message appeared on the main screen. No one touched it. No one typed anything. The message wrote itself, letter by letter. "You heard it. Now it hears you." The crew backed away. The youngest among them began to cry. The commander looked at the human ship one last time. It was closer now. Just a little. Floating. Watching. He whispered, "What have we done?" The station lights flickered again. And then, complete silence. The Varnock High Council received the last message from the observation station only minutes before the signal went dark. There was no final report, no goodbye. Just one message on repeat. You heard it, now it hears you. The council didn't understand. They thought it might be a human trick, but they were worried. A special team was chosen, a crew of 5, all trained for deep space missions. Their job was simple: go to the station, find out what happened, and report back. They left in a strong ship with heavy shields and quiet engines. The mission leader was Captain Sorrell, a calm and serious Varnock who didn't believe in ghosts. He believed in facts, in proof. He didn't trust humans, but he also didn't fear them. As their ship neared the station, everything looked normal. From outside, the station floated silently near the small dark moon. The human ship was still there too, close and still. It hadn't moved since the last report. No lights, no signals. It was like a piece of space junk. Captain Sorrell frowned. Strange, he said. Too quiet. They tried to contact the station. No answer. All systems were off. No life signs inside. It was like everyone had disappeared. They sent a probe to scan the station. Nothing dangerous was found. No weapons, no radiation, no signs of struggle. It was safe to enter. The team put on suits and entered through the lower airlock. The station was cold, dark, and empty. Everything was clean, in place. No blood, no broken walls, just silence. The crew walked slowly through the halls. Their lights showed rooms with food still on tables, computers still on, but no people. It was like they had all walked away without a sound. They reached the control room. Everything was off, powered down on purpose. A technician named Karen turned on the backup. Lights flickered. One screen came on. It showed a file, human language. Captain Sorrell ordered it to be translated. The video began. A human woman appeared on the screen, her face pale and scared. She spoke fast, whispering. "We didn't know," she said. "We thought it was just a signal, just data. But it wasn't. It was alive. It doesn't talk. It listens. It waits." Behind her, something moved. A shadow in the dark. Then the screen turned to static. That was the end of the file. Captain Sorrell felt cold. "She was on that ship," he said. "Why didn't she leave?" They decided to board the human ship. They floated across space in a small shuttle. As they got closer, they saw something strange. The ship was clean but changed. Symbols were carved into the outside hull, long marks that looked like writing, but not in any language the Varnock knew. They looked old, like something from a dream. They entered through the back hatch. No traps, no doors locked. The ship welcomed them, almost too easily. Inside, it was quiet. No sound, no systems on. Their footsteps echoed. They moved through the halls, checking each room. No one was there. No signs of humans. Beds were made, lights were working, but there was something wrong with the air. It felt heavy, thick, like it didn't want them there. In the center of the ship was a door. It was closed but not locked. Karen pressed the button to open it. Nothing happened. The door was jammed. Captain Sorrell stepped forward. "Back away," he said. He pulled out a small tool and started to force it open. The door clicked and opened on its own. Inside was a small room with only one thing, a wall covered in more strange symbols. In the middle of the wall was a single message written in English. "Don't speak, don't listen, don't remember." Karen stepped closer. "I hear something," he said. "A voice. No, a thought. It's not mine." Everyone looked at him. "There is nothing," said Captain Sorrell. But Karen shook his head. "It's here. Something is still here." At that moment, all their comms went dead. Static. Then silence. The lights in the ship dimmed. Not off, just low, like something was watching. Then a soft sound came like breathing from deep inside the ship. Captain Sorrell ordered everyone to leave. "We have what we need," he said. But as they turned to go, Karen didn't move. He stood still, looking at the wall. I think "It knows we're here," he whispered. "It's listening again." They pulled him out. Back to their shuttle. Back to their ship. As they left the human ship behind, they all felt something strange, like a presence, like something had followed them back. Captain Sorrell said nothing. He looked back at the ship, still quiet, still floating. But now, it didn't feel empty. It felt awake. Back on their ship, the Varnock team sat in silence. No one spoke for a long time. The mood had changed. The air felt heavier, like they were still being watched. Captain Sorrell looked at Karen. The technician had been acting strange ever since. They left the human ship. He sat still, eyes wide, breathing slow. He didn't answer questions, just stared at the floor. Captain Sorrell gave an order. Lock the human log file and place Karen under observation. He didn't want anyone else hearing that strange voice again. The ship turned and started its journey back to the nearest outpost. But just 1 hour into the flight, something strange happened. A soft signal began to play through the speakers. Not loud, not sharp, just soft, low static. They tried to shut it off, but it kept returning. Each time, it grew a little louder. Then, they heard a voice. It was the same human woman from the earlier video, but this time, it was longer. A full message. She sounded tired. Broken, but clear. "My name is Captain Elia Voss, commander of the Thai UFS Sparrow. If you are hearing this, you are already too close. We found something in deep space. We thought it was just a signal, but it's not. It listens. It learns." The message continued. "We tried to run, tried to warn Earth, but it was already inside the ship, inside us. We created a code, a way to keep it locked. We called it the Quiet Protocol. If you hear the signal, go dark. Don't speak. Don't respond. Don't let it know you exist." Captain Sorrell paused the recording. He looked at his team. "What is it?" asked one crew member. "I don't know," Sorrell said. "But it's still on that ship." They decoded the rest of the message. Near the end, Captain Elia gave a location. It was not a human place. The coordinates pointed to a forgotten part of Varnock space, once used for secret science missions, now abandoned. The last words of the message were soft, like a whisper. "We should not have listened." Then it ended. Captain Sorrell was quiet for a long time. He then gave a new order. "We're changing course." His crew looked at him with surprise. "You want to go there?" someone asked. "To that place?" "Yes," Sorrell replied. "We need answers. If this quiet protocol is real, we must understand it. If humans found something dangerous, we need to know what it is before it finds us." No one argued, but everyone felt the same cold fear. As they changed direction, the signal disappeared. The ship went quiet again. But Karen didn't improve. He now spoke to himself in short, soft phrases. "It hears me. It remembers. We woke it." He scratched strange shapes into the walls of his room, shapes that looked just like the symbols on the human ship. They reached the location after 2 days of slow travel. The place was cold and empty. A dead world below and above it, floating. Alone was an old Varnock research base. The base had been shut down for over 20 years. Records said it was closed after an experiment failed, but there were no details. They landed carefully. No signals came from the base. No power. No life. But when they entered, they found something unexpected. A human escape pod. It was broken. Old, but clearly human design. And it had been there for years. "How did it get here?" someone asked. They checked the pod. Inside was a logbook, written in both English and alien code. The name on the cover, Captain Elia Voss. Captain Sorrell opened it slowly. The first page read, "We came here to hide, to bury it, but you found the signal. Now it's awake again." The deeper they read, the more they learned. The human crew had discovered something ancient in space, a signal so old and strange that even machines couldn't explain it. It wasn't just sound. It was a pattern, a thought, a presence, something that waited and listened. The quiet protocol was created when the humans realized the signal was not natural. Every time they responded, even just with words or scans, it grew stronger, more aware. So they made a rule: total silence. But one crew member broke the rule. He whispered a question, and it answered. Captain Sorrell closed the book. His hands were shaking. Karen stood behind him, his eyes strange and cold. "We should go," said Sorrell. "We need to warn our people." But Karen just smiled. "It's too late," he said. Then the lights in the base began to flicker, and something deep below began to move. The base lights flickered for a long second, then returned. A low hum ran through the metal floor, slow, steady, like breathing. The crew stood still, unsure if it was a power surge or something worse. Captain Sorrell stared at Karen. His words still echoed in Sorrell's mind. "It's too late." Karen. "Step back," the captain said carefully, but Karen didn't move. His eyes were dark, unfocused. He tilted his head as if listening to something only he could hear. Then, softly, he spoke again. "It remembers this place." The rest of the crew backed away. 2 guards raised their weapons, but Captain Sorrell lifted his hand to stop them. "He's not dangerous yet," he said. "Keep watching him. We don't know how deep this thing is inside him." They moved quickly through the base, trying to learn more. Rooms were dark and cold, filled with old equipment, broken monitors, and dust. But deep in the center of the base, they found something strange. A vault door marked with both Varnock and human symbols. The human writing said only one thing: Quiet Protocol, Level 0. Sorrell touched the lock panel. It was broken, but not damaged. Disabled on purpose. The door was heavy, but after some work, they managed to pull it open. Behind it was a small control room. Inside, old power cells still glowed faintly. One terminal was still working. Karen suddenly stepped forward, faster than expected, and pressed a button before anyone could stop him. The screen came alive. A human recording played. This time it was different. Captain Elia Voss was not afraid. She was calm, almost emotionless. "We buried it here," she said. "At first we thought it was a signal from an old machine, a lost message in space. But it was never a machine. It's older than language, older than stars." She paused, then added, "It doesn't need to move. It doesn't need to touch. It only needs to be heard." Another screen lit up behind her, showing a strange shape. A twisting, dark structure made of lines and symbols. It didn't look like a creature or a ship. It looked like thought made real. "We found this form," Elia said. "We don't know what it is. A prison? A body? A map? We only know that when you look at it, it looks back." The screen glitched and the image disappeared. The message ended with 3 final words. "Do not remember." Captain Sorrell turned to his team. "Download everything. We'll take this back to the council." But then, a noise came from behind them. A soft tapping. Not mechanical. Organic. They turned to find Karen standing in the doorway, both hands, bleeding. He had carved the same strange symbols into the metal wall with his claws. "It speaks now," he whispered. "You heard it. You all heard it." 2 guards moved to grab him, but he dropped to his knees. His face was calm. "I understand now. That's why the humans went quiet. They weren't afraid. They were trying to protect others, to keep it from spreading." The tapping sound returned, but it wasn't from Karen. It came from under the floor. The crew froze. The hum grew louder. The lights dimmed again. Sorrell gave the order. "We leave now. Back to the ship. Burn this place if we must." They gathered the data drives and pulled Karen with them. But as they moved, the walls began to change. The clean metal surfaces now showed faint outlines, those same twisted symbols. They were appearing on their own. "It's rewriting the space," one crew member said. Like it's remembering the walls. Back on their ship, the doors closed. Fast. Engines roared. They lifted from the surface and turned away from the base. No one spoke until they were safely above the atmosphere. Sorel sat down, breathing hard. Set course for the Council. Maximum speed. No signals. Total silence. The pilot nodded, but before the ship jumped to warp, one last message appeared on the front screen. Not from the base, not from any known system, just 5 simple words. It is already with you. No one touched a keyboard. No one typed anything. The crew stared at the message. The ship was quiet, too quiet. Karen, now locked inside the medical room, smiled in the dark. It always listens first, he said. Then it speaks. And in the silence of space, somewhere far behind them, the abandoned base powered itself back on. One light, one screen, the old human warning playing again. Don't speak, don't listen, don't remember. But it was already too late. The ship flew through deep space without sending any signals. Engines ran cold and quiet. All screens were off. No one spoke unless they had to. The silence felt like a wall between the crew and the thing they didn't understand. Captain Sorel sat in the command chair, eyes fixed on the black ahead. He thought about the message. It is already with you. Those words stayed in his mind like a shadow that wouldn't leave. In the medbay, Karen lay strapped to a bed. His eyes were open, but he wasn't really there. He whispered things. No one wanted to hear. It doesn't care about stars, or ships. It only needs minds. The doctor had tried to scan him. The results made no sense. Karen's brain was active, too active, like he was dreaming while awake. And his thoughts were not just his own. Some patterns in the scans looked like language, but not Varnock or human. Meanwhile, strange problems began to spread through the ship. First, the lights dimmed in short bursts. Then, screens flickered even when they were turned off. Then, the dreams started. Each crew member, one by one, began to report strange dreams. Dreams of empty halls, whispering voices, long tunnels made of symbols, and something watching from far away. But when they woke up, they remembered nothing. Only fear. Sorel gave an order. No more sleeping alone. Rotate shifts, keep the lights on, stay awake as long as you can. But that wasn't enough. 2 days into the journey, one of the pilots, Vara, stared at a blank screen for too long. She said she saw her own face on it, but it was smiling when she wasn't. Then she screamed and tried to destroy the console. With her hands, they had to sedate her. The crew was breaking. And still, they didn't know what they were facing. Sorel locked himself in his quarters and opened the data files again. He looked at the human recordings, trying to find something they had missed. One file was marked last entry. It was Elia Voss again. She looked tired, thin, her eyes red. We failed, she said quietly. We thought silence was enough. But it was never about sound. It was about memory. The more we remembered the signal, the more it remembered us. She leaned closer to the camera. It's not outside, it's inside now. It doesn't ride on ships, it rides on thought. She paused. If you're seeing this, do one thing. Forget me. The file ended. Sorel sat back, heart pounding. A horrible idea formed in his mind. What if we've already spread it? He whispered. What if every word we speak about it gives it shape? Just then, the emergency alarm rang. Sorel ran to the command deck. The crew was there, except for one. Karen was gone. The medbay was empty. The door was open from the inside. The camera system had been disabled from the main controls. Then a sound came over the ship's speakers. Not static, not a voice. Breathing, slow, deep, inside the ship. The sound stopped suddenly. And then, a new message appeared on every screen at once. You are remembering. One crew member fell to the ground, holding his head. It's inside, my thoughts. It's showing me things. Sorel shouted, Shut down all systems. Total blackout. They powered down everything. The ship fell dark and cold. No lights, no sound, no voices. They waited. Long minutes passed, then an hour. Slowly, fear faded a little, but Karen didn't return. They found him 5 hours later, floating inside the engine room. Alive, but silent. His eyes were pure black, his hands covered in those strange symbols. On the wall behind him, scratched deep into the metal, was a message written in blood. I remember too much. They pulled him out and locked him in a cold sleep chamber. It was the only way to keep him still. Captain Sorrell met with the last 4 crew members. This isn't a weapon, he said. It's an idea, a virus of thought. The humans called. It's a signal, but it's more like a seed. And once it's in your mind, it grows. One officer asked, "Then what do we do?" Sorrell answered with a voice that shook. "We don't report this. We don't go to the council. If they study it, if they listen, they'll bring it home," the officer finished. Sorrell nodded. "We finish this mission in silence. No logs, no data sharing. We bury it again. Somewhere no one will find it." But deep inside him, he knew. They had already failed. The thing was no longer waiting in space. It was waiting in minds. The ship flew through darkness, silent and cold. No one talked. No lights were used unless needed. The crew worked in short shifts and stayed in groups. Sleep became harder each day. Even closing their eyes felt dangerous now. Captain Sorrell hadn't spoken in hours. He sat in the command chair, staring at the dark screen. He didn't want to see any more messages. He didn't want to hear breathing from the speakers. He didn't want to feel the cold fingers of thought pulling at his mind. But he could feel it anyway. It was inside them. All of them. Vara, who had attacked the console earlier, was gone now. She had whispered something strange before locking herself in the escape pod and launching it into empty space. She smiled as the door closed. "I hear it," she said. "I hear it breathing through time." They never saw her again. There were only 4 crew members left now: Sorrell, the pilot Ren, a young engineer named Lyra, and the doctor. Lyra cried quietly most nights. She said she saw her dead brother in her dreams, but he wasn't really her brother. He was hollow, full of symbols. The doctor tried to keep the crew calm. He gave them sleeping pills and spoke softly, but then he stopped sleeping too. He said he dreamed of a giant eye made of words blinking across galaxies. Sorrell knew they were near the end. He went to the cold chamber where Karan was still asleep. The glass was covered in frost, but Sorrell could see his face. Calm, still, and... Yet there was movement. His fingers twitched. His mouth opened slightly. Sorrell leaned close. Karen whispered one word. "Remember." Sorrell stepped back in fear. Karen was supposed to be unconscious, but the thing inside him was still awake. Back on the command deck, Ren called out. "We're being followed," he said. Sorrell ran to the screen. In the distance, a ship was approaching. Fast. It was old, burned, broken, but the system read its name. FS Sparrow, the human ship, the one that should have been lost, forever. "That's not possible," Lyra said. "We left it. It was dead." But it wasn't dead. It was following, and it was sending a signal, not in sound, but in dreams. Sorrell gave an order. "We destroy it, now." Ren loaded the weapons. They aimed at the Sparrow. But just before they fired, every system on their ship shut down. Lights. Out. Engines dead. No sound, just one message blinking on the screen in red. Remembering is a form of listening. The crew froze. The ship's walls began to change again. The strange symbols appeared, glowing faintly like veins. The shape of... The ship was no longer normal. It felt like the ship itself was dreaming. "We brought it too far," Sorrell whispered. "We carried it in our thoughts." Lyra began to shake. She fell to the floor, crying. The doctor dropped a data pad. It cracked. And inside it was another message, one no one had written. Every mind is a door. Suddenly, the glass of the cold chamber shattered. Karen stepped out. His eyes were not black anymore, they were empty. White. Like fog. I showed it the way, he said. Now it walks without sound. Ren grabbed a weapon. Don't move, he said. Karen just smiled. You're too loud, he said. Even when you're silent, you're still thinking, still remembering. The lights exploded above them. The air was filled with a soft sound, like wind through wires, and then silence. Complete, total silence. Even their thoughts began to fade. Not disappear, but slow down. Words felt heavy. Memory felt far away. Faces blurred. Sorrel reached for Ren, but his hand felt like stone. His mouth opened, but no sound came. The signal had changed. It no longer needed ears. It now spoke through thought, and it was louder than anything they had ever known. In the last clear moment, Sorrel saw something on the wall. A final message. Maybe written by Elia Voss. Or maybe by the thing itself. It said, "The only safe mind is an empty one." Then the darkness took him. Everything was quiet now. Too quiet. No sound. No movement. The ship drifted in space like a forgotten coffin. Systems were off. Lights were dead. Nothing moved, except thought. Captain Sorrel floated in darkness. He wasn't dead, not yet. But he wasn't awake either. His body felt far away. His mind felt full. Full of noise, but without sound. Full of thoughts, but none of them his own. He saw flashes, Lyra screaming without a mouth, Ren banging on a control panel that wasn't there, the doctor whispering symbols into empty space, and Karen. Karen stood in a hallway that stretched forever, his eyes white and glowing. He smiled as the darkness walked beside him. Not behind. Not ahead. Beside him. In this dream space, or maybe memory space, Sorrel finally understood. The signal was never about technology, not about machines or radios or transmissions. It was an idea, a pattern, a living thought that grew inside memory like a seed in soil. And once you remembered it remembered you back. Sorrel tried to push it away, but it was already inside, like a name you can't forget, like a nightmare that knows your voice. You tried to fight it, Karen said, walking toward him. Sorrel's voice cracked in his mind. We had to try. You never had a chance, Karen replied. The humans tried silence. You tried logic. But the signal doesn't care about sound or science. It only wants to be known. Suddenly, Sorrel saw the UFS Sparrow again, broken, floating, empty. But it wasn't empty. Inside, hundreds of minds were trapped. Not bodies, not ghosts. Thoughts, echoes, memories locked in place, still dreaming, and now his crew would join them. Unless, Sorrel focused. He found something inside him. A tiny, sharp pain. A real feeling, his own thought. Not from the signal. Not infected. He grabbed it. A memory of before the mission. A small garden on Varnock Prime. His son laughing. A greenstone. A sky with 2 moons. It was real. It was his. He used that memory to push. Push against the dream. Push against the signal. And just for a moment, it worked. His eyes opened. He was back on the ship. The command room was broken. Lights flickered. Ren was gone. Lyra sat in a corner, rocking back and forth, whispering, Don't remember, don't remember." The doctor lay still, eyes open, not blinking. Sorrel stood, weak. The walls were covered in symbols again, like veins crawling toward his thoughts. But he didn't stop. He made his way to the engine room. There, on the wall, was the emergency memory purge system. A last resort tool, used only if data infection spread to the main systems. It could wipe every recording, every log, every trace of the mission, even the minds of the crew if needed. He looked at the switch. A large red lever. Once pulled, there would be no going back. But maybe that was the point. Maybe forgetting was the only way to survive. He looked back one last time. Karen stood in the doorway again, still smiling. "You can't erase thought," Karen said. Sorrel didn't answer. He pulled the lever. White light filled the room. Pain shot through his mind like lightning. Every memory of the signal, the ship, the base, the voices, the symbols, burned away. And then, silence. True silence. Sorrel woke up weeks later in a recovery station on Varnock Prime. He was the only one who survived. The rescue ship found him drifting in a dead vessel, mind almost empty. Most systems had been wiped. No logs, no voices, only a final message scratched into the ship's black box. "Do not remember." The doctor said his memory loss was strange, clean, like something had been cut out, not damaged. He didn't remember his crew, or the mission, or the signal, but sometimes in his dreams he heard breathing. Very far away. And once, as he walked, through a quiet corridor of the hospital, he passed a screen. It was off, but for a second he saw a message, faint, blinking. "It remembers that you forgot." He blinked, and it was gone. He kept walking, not speaking, not listening, not remembering. But in the quiet of space, somewhere far from any star, the signal waited, not dead, just patient, because forgetting is not the end. It's only the pause before someone remembers again. The end.